historical record going. I'm actually at a different. I'm at on a neighbor's patio working off my phone, trying to just um, check connectivity. So I'm going to ask you guys at the end just if there was any how well the connection was. I'll also know if I get chopped, if I get thrown out, I'll know that. But if I don't, I'm going to kind of ask you guys. So you guys see my screen? The
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh darn it! When I do this, the darn my cursor goes away. I'm going to need a new computer. All right, so let us kind of do this. I'm actually very excited. We're gonna look at some defensive stuff again, kind of extend some defensive looks, some of that lineup stuff. So Dale, you were talking about that last time. So I'll give you some video to look at. And before that, though, we're gonna just continue to, get this voice out there. This, like who are we? And at a time like this, obviously, we all wish we were strapping on helmets and doing things, doing things differently. But I'm just going to put this in front of you, and so I'd ask you guys help with the respectful part. Eventually, here you're about to get an athlete manual, sort of a guide, and so there'll be some expounding on all this stuff. But we've talked about some of this, from a responsibility point of view. I mean, we're responsible for who we are, what we do, together, apart. And then those next two, I've tried to, keep on the message of improving, taking a step forward, in spite of everything, and trying to be supportive of people. And actually, I mean, we will be, and so we're supportive of those that want to be a part of this group. And then in the midst of all of this, because I know you guys have got some tread on the tires, but this thing is getting ready for football, which is a pretty unique game, to say the least, of all the sports that are out there. Um, so don't discount. This is a bunch of kumbaya, kind of know who we are, what we're doing, but like that one at the bottom, that's kind of what we're. There's going to be some pop in what we do, someday here. So keep that in mind, in terms of how explosive and what it is that we ultimately get to do, which is a little bit different than other sports. Um, so I hope that keeps that in mind with you. I'm going to put this in front of you also here. I'm just going to let you read this for a second. So. And so I'm going to do this. Obviously, we don't have the largest sort of size group today, but just in general, I mean, does anybody want? What we're going to do after this is go through some defensive stuff and kind of get into the playbook. Does anybody have anything they want to kind of share? S- say something. If anybody does, like, feel free to open your mic and kind of do it. That's generally why we're doing this as smaller groups in grade levels, so that we can perhaps have an open discussion if something warranted. So if anybody does want to say something, you're more than welcome to. You do not have to at all, but feel free if anything comes to your mind here about.
Um, at this time, do we know who, like the DC is or the the OC is
So
as of now?
what I'm going to do actually tomorrow is, now that we've got a you know a set schedule, um, And so now it'll become a little more apparent. But due to the fact of people being available or not, the fact that this has changed. So from an offensive point of view, so you got a feel of what we're going to do, and Coach Lyon is going to be a big part of what we do. So I mean, if we had to, we don't have to put labels on people, but he's right in the spot of a leadership position on
Because I was
that.
just wondering, like, who I go to ask, so I don't have to come to you every time and ask you. I can actually go ask my offensive coordinator.
That we're gonna get. Oh, that's beautiful that you. We're gonna get more formal on that now that we've got a timeline and a schedule. So
Okay.
you'll know that very very soon. But kind of Coach Lyon is an entity like that, and then also Coach Freeman will be, and part of that is people that I become aware of, and just people who have have an availability for this unique timeline that's been introduced. So we'll get a little more formal on that, but
All right. Sounds
yeah. To say that there's moving parts would be an understatement. And the other way that I know you guys are seniors, but the fact that there aren't very many coaches on campus makes that unfortunately a harder question to answer. So if we could change that, that would be a positive thing to answer that question in general. But so kind of the quick answer is, as of right now, it's sort of, you kind of go to the videos a little bit. And that's what we're going to keep building, sort of a video library. But those people will get defined pretty quickly here, I think. So there's still a question. I mean, I know you guys are obviously senior. Anybody who's looking at it, it's a little bit unique to go from December 14th to like July or to January 8th. Generally, that's not a time where you go play high school sports.
yeah.
So like,
Usually that's my wrestling season. So
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, it's sort of not normally, where you think of like, hey, we got to get ready for football. So there are some unique, aspects of what'll be, how we'll even manage that that time frame. So it's yeah, all very new, but we'll have a plan, and we'll have people who are very prepared and qualified. So all right, let's do a little defense here. And I'm going to show you. So, you guys probably have seen this stuff, but just so that we're all talking the same language in terms of gaps, A, B, C. If there's a tight end, then outside is the D gap. From some alignment point of view, so this comes from a front point of view. For us, there's 5 guys that make up the front 5. So, it gets a little interesting when there's a tight end, and how we end up playing with one of our guys on the front. But this is, generally how we're going to talk about gaps, and then also alignments. And I just means sort of inside, is kind of what that means. But talk a little bit about the way we'll end up huddling. And so we'll huddle kind of in these, we've talked about these 3 levels. So the front 5, quick, the bandit, the nose, the whip, and the end. The second level, like the heavy adjusters, like the guys who, quote, get us lined up, 95% of the time, are the Sam, the Mike, and the Rover. And then the back end is the field corner, the boundary corner, and the free safety. So those guys, the boundary corner and the field corner never change sides. And the free safety is always in the same spot. So this is kind of how we'll end up with our huddle. Showed this last time with guys and who's what they're doing. So what we call those 11 people. And again, really nobody would quite know exactly who they'll be, but from a formation point of view, an identification is the key here. We have to be able to identify if we want to be able to line up correctly. So some of the big pictures, is there a tight end or how many? How many running backs? That is a huge issue of how many then linebackers we have in the box. And there's a big clue is however many running backs they have, that will be the number of linebackers we have in the box. And then is there a wing? And that's kind of a big deal because a wing creates, an issue of somebody motioning during play. So that involves then how we bump or rotate on the second level. So those are sort of the big picture items. So I'm going to show you 4 plays here. And we'll actually show some clips on it also. So like I say, I lose my cursor here, but I'm not going to use it. I've labeled the, sort of the 6 back end guys. So this would be a non-tight end formation. You've got a slot up top and a wing, kind of a wing, not really. Actually, I shouldn't say that. He's not a wing. He's in the backfield. He is not on the wing. Now, he might motion, but that's fine because we only have two linebackers, the Mike and the Rover. So, we're ready for motion. We'll bump if it does motion. The Mike and the Rover would then bump to their right, the defensive right. The ball's in the middle of the field. Generally, when the ball's in the middle of the field, we'll call field to the right as just a rule. So this becomes just a communication point of view. So we've got 5 guys up front, and the reason why they call this the double eagle flex is those 3 techniques are stand up. Here we've got a stand up. We've got a stand up Air 7 technique out there to the field as well. So there's another guy without his hand on the ground. But all right, let's take a look at just what this happens. I'm just going to point out one thing kind of each time. So of all the stuff here, and again, you can go back and watch this as well. So what happens is that the guy I want to highlight is right here. So notice how this defensive end down here, when he gets a down block, notice what he does here. He doesn't care he's not trying to tackle the ball carrier. What we talked about last time is those front 5 guys are called spill players. So his only job is to make sure that ball does not go in between the C gaps. And so what you see then is that as that wing blocks him, then the linebacker right here, right, he then becomes what's called the force player. Sorry. This guy becomes the force player because the person that he's viewing blocks. He down blocks. So this guy becomes the force player. So it's the way this defense fits. This is what you would call a run fit. So that's all I want to highlight here is that 5 technique. He is not there to make the tackle. I mean, he could make a move on the wing. He could, but that would not be playing the defense. So right there, like that picture right there, his engagement of that block, right, creates our other force player. So this is a gap control defense. Let's take another look here. So here's another alignment. We got kind of a 2 double slot. So the Sam and the Rover extend. Right? The Sam will be to the field. The Rover would be in the boundary. The Mike is right in the middle of the field. So is the free safety. He's slightly shaded to the field because of the space. But let's just kind of take a look here at what happens. Get a little bit of twist up front. So that's kind of what, when you crowd the line with those 5 guys, you've got some chance to play some games. So we get a little twist here. So that's kind of the fun of getting to the passer. We get a crosser who comes, and there's a call for this. Right? You might be like, well, what are we playing, man or zone? So there's a call for this is that if that guy leaves, then we've got, this is called a hole player. So we've got somebody right in the middle of the field who can pick him up. So we'll go another one here, just from a identification point of view. Down on the bottom here, we've got a tight end on the offensive right, so our left. That's where the Sam is. The rover is to the field here where there is a wing, and that the reason why is because if that wing comes across the formation, then the rover is going to become the Mike. And so we're not going to end up in a situation where the Sam would become the Mike. So that's why that Sam is tightened down on the tight end. So he's in a jam technique with the tight end down on the right, on the offensive right, defensive left. So just kind of take a look here. So we get motion. So actually that's why we've done that. So the Mike shuffles, the rover then becomes the Mike. And so we end up with, after all that motion, all they're going to do is throw a fade up top. So I don't know exactly what our sort of technique will be out there, but probably a little bit more bail technique. Last time I also talked about the free safety who runs. So if you notice here, we've got a free safety. It's got a chance if that ball does get hit up in the air. And so that's a way to play it. If that guy kicks it towards the middle of the field, we've got a free safety who's going to come over. All right, last one here. We've got just your I formation. So the tight end is on the defensive left. So the Sam is down there, all right, off the tight end. All right, the Mike and the rover are going to be splitting the I backs. And there's your 3 on the back end. So let's just kind of see what happens. I'm just going to highlight one guy here. And so there's a lot going on, but a little bit to the technique. But the reason why I wanted to put this on here is, as I had said, the one thing that this defense is guaranteed to stop, as long as we can play the defense, is runs between the tackles. So you see how we get a lot of hats to the ball in there. Now, the rest of the field, it's lonely, but this is what we can stop in this defense. We can make people do something different. And that actually, from an offensive point of view, like if I was going to, pretty much in any game, you want to sit there and say, I'm going to try the easiest thing and see if you can stop it. So with his defense, that stuff is done. There's a lot of hats between the C gaps. So that becomes something that's not an option anymore. Granted, we have to be able to play the techniques inside. Just because you have people there doesn't mean it's going to necessarily fit up, but that's the way the rules for those 5 guys up front, they've got a bunch of rules. And that's what those rules are designed to create here. He jammed up middle of the field, so it should take us off of, stop sharing. It'll take us off of that. You know what? Actually, I did that wrong. Share one more time. So as we wrap up here, one sec. So to finish this thing, so anything that we're going to do here on defense is rules are going to help us. Effort, and I know that's sort of a word you've probably heard for a couple years. Hard work, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure our effort is quite smart in terms of what we do on the field and scheme wise and also training wise. So hopefully that's a little bit of a differentiator in terms of what you guys have in store for when this thing gets going. So you guys have any